You want to be the grill master that everybody loves and respects in your neighborhood? You want to be the go-to grill guy in your family? You got to have a great rib recipe. I've spent about 20 years on this recipe for ribs. I've stolen from just about every barbecue joint there is, and I've added the best of what they could offer me to get ribs that are just succulent, great tasting, and quite frankly, championship quality. We're going to go low and slow. This episode is about knowing how to control your heat, whether it's charcoal or gas, and coming up with a rib that is just, well, you know, it's hard to explain till you taste it. So stay with me, watch me do it, then you do it at home. Great ribs. A lot of people don't even know that there's a little membrane that runs down the back of baby backs and spare ribs. And you want to remove it for two different reasons. One, just for your pure enjoyment because it's tough and it's gnarly and it's nasty. But the other thing is that it pulls everything together like this and it affects the cooking time. So you got two reasons to go through this one little step. You just kind of take a knife and get under the membrane. It's really easy to do. I like to take a paper towel. You could also put kosher salt on your hand. And then it's just a matter of just ripping it right down. Just like that. Sometimes you'll get a little splinter group going, but it's pretty easy to take off as well. And see the difference between this one and this one? Now let's go and put some seasoning on them and see just how fabulous we can make ribs. I'm going to take a little Dijon mustard and plop it down on the ribs. Why Dijon? Because that's what I happen to have in the refrigerator. If you have yellow ballpark mustard, that's great. If you got grainy mustard, that's great too. We're basically using the mustard as a medium to hold the spices that we're going to put on, but it also adds a little acidity, a little twang, a little something that's a little bit different without being nutty. And it's just a thin coat that you're looking for. And I'm going to do both sides. Don't need to put quite as much mustard on the second side. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to take a basic rib rub and we're going to sprinkle over both sides of the ribs pretty heavily. There's very good rib rubs out in the market nowadays. You can make your own. This is a really simple rib rub to make, but very effective. And we want to put this on fairly heavily. This is the barbecuer's secret right here. In this recipe, I'm kind of stealing from Memphis. I'm stealing a little bit from Kansas City, and I'm going to steal a little bit from North Carolina too. So we have a multi-purpose rib that should satisfy anybody, no matter what their barbecue snobbery is. Flip them over. Do the other side as well. And this actually kind of helps push some of those seasonings into that mustard on that side. This you don't have to be as precise about. All right. They look great and we're ready to cook. All right, see folks, I've got a dual zone setup here, or indirect. I've got my heat source over on this side of the grill. I'm putting my meat over the cool side. I've also added some wood chips. That's what's getting this great smoke that we got going around over here. So let's grab a rib. Again, adding that to the cool side of the grill, not over the charcoal. Put the lid back on. You want to barely open these vents because you want a really slow fire. You want to condense that smoke. That's what's flavoring your meat. Okay, it's been about 20 or 30 minutes. This is something you want to kind of do fairly quickly. We're going to add some more wood chips just so we get a lot of smoke generated in here. And I'm using a mixture of apple wood and hickory, which kind of gives me some sweet tart to the flavor. When I put the wood chips in, I also like to give the ribs a little spritz of apple cider to keep a little moisture going on with these ribs. Setting up an indirect fire on a gas grill is even easier than a charcoal. It's a matter of preheating the entire grill on high, all burners. We want to cut off the back two burners. This grill has 3 burners that run this way. Some grills will have burners that run this way. So you just want to cut the majority of them off and generate a slow heat. Now I've already put a wood chip packet up here where I know it's hot, and it's been sitting out here for about 15 minutes and it's beginning to smoke. So that's going to add some great flavor to these ribs. Let's just get them on back here in the back, away from direct heat. Let the smoke do its thing, get the lid closed. Go find you a Budweiser and have a seat. I went and cleaned up my golf clubs because I'm planning on playing golf tomorrow, but I need to check on my ribs now. And as I suspected, the smoke packet is dead, so we need to replace it. Being a long item, you need to pull these ribs off the grill so that you can get down in there and get that grill grit up. I like using 2 tongs I'm going to move it off to the side. So we'll do that. We'll sit it back over here in the same little corner. It'll take about 5 or 10 minutes for it to heat back up. Let's replace the cooking grid. Put our ribs back on the indirect portion again. Still not ready for direct heat on these guys yet. And while you've got this open, don't forget your trusty apple cider. Give them a little spritz, close our lid, and it's time to be patient one more time. Okay, we've been doing a lot of indirect cooking at this point, and they're just about done. They should be about 85–90% done at this point. Now, what I want to do is I want to finish them over direct heat. So all we're going to do is just cut our back burners back on, about medium. If you're using a charcoal grill, it's also very simple. Just pull your ribs back over the direct heat portion of your grill and then proceed exactly the way we're doing here. Okay, we've done the low and slow. We've infused them with great smoke flavor. Now we're going to finish them. Remember, we've talked about sauces, and sauces have a lot of sugar in them, so you don't want to put sauce on it till the very end because it'll burn, and that's not the flavor you're looking for. So get your favorite barbecue sauce, and we're really going to glaze the ribs. I think the hint of barbecue sauce is better than it just being overpowering. We want to taste all the spices that we already have on here. We want to taste the smoke flavor. We don't want to just taste the barbecue sauce. So we may do this a couple more times over the next 10 minutes, and then quickly close the lid. Let's hang out for about a minute. So how do you know when your ribs are really done? If you can take your tongs, put them about halfway in there, and you get a bend on there, your ribs are done. Now be careful. See how these bones are beginning to poke out from the meat here? In the championship world, that's called shiners. That means there might have been a little too much intense heat right there. Don't fall into that myth that you've got to see a lot of bone for the rib to be good. If you do, you've dried your rib out. Now there's one last thing that I do that I think separates my ribs from the rest of them. And this is actually, I stole this from the chef at the Angus Barn in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm going to drizzle a little bit of honey over the top of these ribs right before we take them off. You don't need to be fancy with this. Just quick, easy, don't need to brush it in. Put your lid down, wait about 30 seconds. You're ready to grab these off, cut them into 2 rib portions and serve them. If you don't get raised for these ribs, you got some funky eaters because these will be the best ribs they've ever put in their mouth.